Welcome back to the War Room with Roger Stone and Owen Schroyer. Joining me now is one of my favorite guests back in the day when Stone Cold Truth, the radio show, was syndicated by the Genesis Communications Network. My co-host on that short-lived but glorious show was Tyler Nixon. Tyler Nixon is, of course, a descendant of President Richard M. Nixon. He is a distinguished member of the bar, practicing law in Denver, Colorado. He is a raconteur, a bon vivant, a man about town, knowledgeable on many subjects, and he joins us now on the War Room. Welcome, Tyler Nixon. We seem to have a brief technical delay here, so let me say that Tyler Nixon is going to talk to us in some detail about the failed efforts by the anti-gun lobby to grab our guns. You see, Tyler Nixon is a noted sportsman, an expert not only on gun law, but on the proper use of firearms. But he has also been an astute observer of the entire Russian narrative, or I should say the non-Russian narrative, because to date, neither the House nor the Senate Intelligence Committees nor Robert Mueller and his very expensive inquiry have come up with a scintilla of evidence, a shred of evidence that proves that the Russians colluded with, conspired with, or coordinated with any real representative of the Trump campaign. As I said on the Alex Jones show today, I believe the fact that the campaign's digital director, Brad Pascal, had a very high-profile appearance on 60 Minutes, well, that's the same as painting a big old target on your back. Now, Mr. Pascal has said that he provided no targeting data or information to the Russians or anyone else, and I, for one, totally and completely believe him. At the same time, perhaps we are finally going to get the breakdown of the $94 million spent by the Trump campaign for digital advertising. That's a lot of money. Attempts by the New York Times and other media organizations to break that down and see exactly where those dollars were spent, in effect, see receipts for those expenditures, have been, to date, unsuccessful. Perhaps the Senate or the House Intelligence Committee, or perhaps Mr. Mueller himself, will have an easier time with subpoena authority to get to the bottom of that question. Just as a student of politics, I would like to know. Gentlemen, what is the status of our guest?
Roger, I'll just let you know that we have not been able to reach Tyler. The crew is working on that right now. So considering that, I don't know if there's anywhere else you want to take us. We've got, I think we could even take some calls soon as well. I think people are already trying to call in. But obviously right now, Roger, we're all still kind of stunned that George Soros's people with the Open Society Foundation would claim that he did not collaborate with the Nazis, and then one step further, CNN would claim that Alex Jones made that up. So that was quite shocking for that to happen right before we went on air here today.
Yeah, this outrageous attack on Alex Jones, there he is, excellent. This outrageous attack on Alex Jones really is a sign that Anderson Cooper has lost his mind. I mean, it is positively Orwellian that he is able to go on cable TV and deny reality, deny which has been documented by the networks as well as numerous foreign intelligence services. There is no doubt about Soros's past as a Nazi collaborator. By the way, his father was also a Nazi collaborator, an established fact. It seems to me that Anderson Cooper must be concerned about being invited to the right cocktail parties there on the Upper West Side. Owen, what kind of reaction have you been getting from the info warriors to this stunning piece of disinformation by CNN?
It's so shocking that it's almost just numbing. I mean, it's how do you even respond to someone saying the sun isn't bright or night isn't dark? I mean, it's just like, what? I mean, it's almost like you don't even feel it. To me, it took a second really to let it sink in. But to me, it just shows the complete collapse right now of the mainstream media that CNN would run with that attack on Alex Jones, and the complete collapse of George Soros and his movements that they would now try to claim that he's never collaborated with Nazis. To me, that tells me that it's finally gotten to them and people now know he's a Nazi, so they're having to fight back.
All right, I have just gotten word that Tyler Nixon joins us now from Denver, Colorado. Tyler, welcome to the War Room with Owen Schroyer and Roger Stone.
Roger, it's great to be with you as always.
Great, there he is, a great American. Look at that American flag. That's almost as if we had you right here in the InfoWars studio. So we got a lot of topics to cover here, and we'll go over into the next segment to do it. What do you make of the efforts by the anti-gun lobby in the wake of Las Vegas, and where is this headed? What will actually happen? Are we looking at draconian gun snatching by the federal government?
I don't think so, Roger. I've been a member of the NRA for, I would say, going on 32 years, 34 years. I joined when I was a very young man. I'm a life member. I've been a passionate advocate of gun rights for as long as I've been an adult. And I recall that as many recall, back to 1994, the revolution that we had in Congress, the Republican takeover of Congress, had very much to do with the assault weapons, quote unquote, ban that Clinton had forced through with the prior Democratic Congress. And we've seen a number of gun control measures over the years in the wake of assassinations, as we saw in 1968 after the assassination of Robert Kennedy. We had the 1968 Gun Control Act, and then there were numerous shootings, or not numerous, but enough shootings, apparently, I guess, in the late 80s, 90s, that the left and the Clintons had gotten together and were able to push through further gun controls in 1994. What I have noticed as a passionate advocate as well as observer is that we are at a time now where the reach and growth of the federal government, I believe, has really galvanized public opinion against any further gun controls. I think we've reached a plateau as to how far the federal government, anyway, is going to go in restricting any types of gun ownership. We already have, as most astute observers and knowledgeable people know, full automatic weapons are banned. They are not, you're not able to purchase those. They were banned basically from prior to a certain date, a date certain. You can't purchase them anymore. That's the bottom line. There are only a number of them in the United States. I believe it's in the couple 100,000, maybe a few less than that. They cost a fortune. And I just don't, this is the first I've ever seen of any type of mass shooting or incident where we had something similar to automatic weapons. And I will say I watched it. I was up late, as you are, Roger, a night owl, writing, and the news came on, and I watched the whole thing unfold. I was riveted to the screen, and the first thing that I heard was what I thought as an infantryman, former infantryman, that it sounded like an M60 machine gun. But regardless of that, we are not going to have any further gun controls in this country, and thank God for President Trump. The two things that I said when he got elected that I'm most happy about are gun rights and the Supreme Court, and I'm sure he'll hew to that line and protect our rights for sure.
Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on the War Room here at InfoWars. This is the expanded programming that Alex Jones has been talking about for some time. Now a reality. We're building a new super studio at the home planet there, at the home ship, the mothership, as it were, in Austin, Texas. And all of this, folks, costs money. You see, we don't have George Soros or the Ford Foundation or the Rockefeller Foundation or any of these other multi-billion-dollar global outfits standing in the wings writing us checks. We have to depend on the rank and file info warriors out there to keep us alive and supplied with rhetorical bullets. That's why I ask you to go to the Infowars.com store during this broadcast or immediately after it and look at some of these extraordinary sales. Alex Jones has put some of the most popular products in Infowars store history at incredible markdowns. You can get Survival Shield, which boosts the immunity, at 40% off. Brain Force, which you've heard me talking about earlier, for mental clarity and mental energy, 50% off. You're not going to see prices like this much longer because, in all honesty, these products are going to sell out. We're moving this stuff out of the warehouse, folks. BioTrue Selenium, an absolute necessity for good health, 40% off. Move now, move today, because if you wait until tomorrow, I cannot guarantee you the product will be available at these deep, deep discounts. And as Alex Jones has said, this is a win-win situation. Not only are you getting the very best all-natural products that can be found anywhere, and I can tell you, Alex Jones and his crew don't put anything on the website for sale that hasn't been rigorously tested and vetted and doesn't have, literally in some cases, thousands of satisfied testimonials. So do yourself a favor, go to the Infowars.com store now. I'm going to return to Tyler Nixon. Tyler, there was a bombshell interview by Julian Assange, the non-Russian journalist who runs WikiLeaks, that published yesterday. I sent it to you this morning for your expert analysis. Sum this up for us. There's a lot of news here, I think.
Oh, it's excellent. And it's at Democracy Now!, which is a ostensibly left-leaning website for sure, a left-leaning news outlet. And Amy Goodman interviewed Assange for an extended period, and he essentially called Adam Schiff, the accusatory, defamatory congressman from California, who has cooked up all types of scurrilous charges, false charges against you. He called Assange, quote, not credible, and he's lying, to gin up political support and to take a political stand. Assange, I have scrutinized thoroughly the transcript as well as watched the interview, and he effectively validates everything you've said and calls you the, in short, the ultimate troll of the Democrat left. And he says basically that, you know, how much you enjoy it and how effective you are at it because you're able to tweak them, really. And they deserve tweaking because this is a complete hoax as far as I'm concerned, this Russian collusion nonsense. But, you know, that has never stopped the Democrats. The truth has never stopped the Democrats and the left from coming out with their line of defamation. And, you know, as you and I know, my name's Nixon, obviously, and I've had to wear that for many years. When I was younger in politics, it was, you know, any relation and are you going to change your name? And the answer was yes and no. But I see what effectively the same type of Watergate era pile-on that we're seeing today. I mean, this is exactly what they did to President Nixon. The deep state got involved. They sabotaged him. They torpedoed him. They got sort of this media stampede going. Fortunately, thank you to InfoWars, and I just want to say real quick how excited I am and was to see you join InfoWars and to join the crew there and to bring your talents and your experience and your knowledge. And I think it's really, in this age of just constant propagandizing from what used to be credible or at least they were the only game in town, quote, mainstream media, it is really refreshing to be able to hear the truth on InfoWars and to hear you talk about the history. But, you know, what we have are effectively dragged out, if they can't get you on in one shot with these deep state prosecutions and persecutions, they're going to come after you with a slow, torturing sort of, Torquemada type torture chamber persecution. I don't even want to say prosecution because there's nothing there. I don't know what Robert Mueller is going to come out with. I don't know what he could come up with. I mean, 42 months, I believe, they've been wiretapping Paul Manafort. 16 months we're into this hoax of an investigation, all to cover up the fact that Hillary Clinton is a lousy candidate and lost and got destroyed by Donald Trump because he's the first politician we've seen in many years, the first person to run who was blunt with the American people, who was honest about what he wanted to do. And they can't stand it. They're besides themselves, and I love it.
Well, I must tell you, Tyler, I went to the mailbox yesterday to get the most recent invoice from one of the attorneys who's representing me in the proceedings in the House and Senate, and I can report my legal costs are now just under $500,000. I can't even begin to fathom what Paul Manafort's legal costs are as he fends off this extraordinary witch hunt. Once again, there is no evidence whatsoever that Paul Manafort has broken any laws or done anything wrong. Yet he's seen his name dragged through the mud, and he is besieged on all sides by the deep state jackals who would now seek to pressure him into bearing false witness against our president. I was forced to set up a legal defense fund. You can go to stonedefensefund.com, stonedefensefund.com, actually set up by my friends. I have no choice. As you know, an Obama-blessed left-wing front organization has filed a completely fraudulent, a frivolous lawsuit against me. We broke that news right here on InfoWars. And again, I wear it as a badge of honor on the theory that they wouldn't be suing me, they wouldn't be attacking me if I wasn't effective on behalf of our principles and our ideals. But in the meantime, I have to bear these extraordinary and mounting costs. So, folks, if you'd like to make a contribution, the entire Stone family will be most grateful. Reading the interview with Assange, this woman, Amy Goodman, says that I'm not a journalist. Well, Amy, if we base it on the number of people watching and reading what I say and write, sorry, babe, you're not a journalist. This is the real journalism right here. It's called InfoWars. Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on the War Room at InfoWars. Still joining us is Tyler Nixon, the Denver, Colorado attorney, a longtime libertarian activist, gun and firearms expert, attorney at law extraordinaire, and all-around a good guy. He is, of course, a descendant of our 37th president, Richard Milhous Nixon, and we're delighted to have him with us here today. Tyler, what else do you see on the Washington scene? The president, I think, in the entire NFL controversy, has outsmarted the smug bicoastal elites yet again, while they were poo-pooing his simplistic and old-fashioned views. As I moved around, the people in flyover country, the people in the real America, well, they were 100% with the president.
I have to confess that when the campaign was in the early stages, the presidential campaign, I was a Rand Paul supporter. I was 100% behind Rand. I felt he was the most libertarian candidate in the race. I had supported his father. Both 2008 put him on the ballot back in Delaware, and in 2012. That being said, I have to say I have never seen greater, more natural political genius than President Trump has displayed throughout that campaign. I mean, first of all, he's got a sense of humor. which is absolutely lacking completely in Hillary Clinton, for starters, but the entire screeching, squealing, super serious, ultra, I don't know, what's the word, ultra tweaked left that just they have no humor about anything in life, it seems. Everything is such a struggle with them. And the president just brings a little bit of humor. He brings a little panache. He brings a lot of panache, actually. And he certainly, I think, has completely upended the entire political calculus. And it's almost beyond grasp, I think, and beyond calculation, certainly, how much of an impact he has had. I think what a lot of us have said the day after he won is that the spell is broken. The mainstream media's grip on everything that we ingest informationally, and the narrative, the quote-unquote narrative, as though the American public needs the reality narrated to them. But be that as it may, there is a narrative, and the president seized that, and he did it in a way that was accessible by the average American, by working people and everybody else, and people like myself as well, who are very studied in politics. I've rarely seen such talent and genius as we see in President Trump, and it's natural. It's not even as though he's developed it or tried to develop it or he works at it. I just hope he can sustain it. And now he's against, let's face it, his much more insidious and much more diabolical foe, which is the deep state, that's going to try to take him down from the inside. And I hope that he's sitting on his powder. He's learning the landscape as a smart businessman would. And Donald Trump built major projects in this country as well as around the world. I think he knows how to follow a plan and to build and to end up with something great at the end of it. And I hope that's what his presidency ends up being for the country.
I'll tell you one unfortunate downside of where we are, Tyler, is I spoke at Fordham University last night, an esteemed Jesuit institution, a fine college. I was proud to be hosted there by the College Republican Club. I was hosted by the club because, of course, the university would not allow their student program to host me. They went, the students in College Republicans went and set up a GoFundMe to raise the money to pay the costs of my speech last night. It was a good time. There were probably 300 to 400 people there. I think, and I'm pretty shrewd at these things, I would say 2/3 to 3/4 of the audience were there to hear what I had to say and generally pretty supportive. And then there was a small handful, maybe 50, of people who were just there to disrupt, not to argue, not to debate, but to disrupt. You see, the results, or I should say the reaction of the left to what used to be political debate is a demand for censorship. No, we don't want to debate. We just want to silence you. You shouldn't be allowed to speak because you are a, take your choice, racist, misogynist, anti-Semite, bigot. Well, I am none of those things. Actions are more important than words. Sure, you can go back to my Twitter feed. I've said some pungent things. But I was marching against New York's draconian, racist Rockefeller drug laws in 2003 because of the way they have destroyed black lives. So don't call me a racist. It was offensive as I would see the students have to go to their cell phone and read their messages. As if perhaps they were written by, I don't know, David Brock from Media Matters for Dog Shit, or whatever his organization is called. They can't even think for themselves. It's become dangerous out there in terms of political discourse. But here's the bad news for my critics. I will not be silenced. Tyler Nixon will not be silenced. Alex Jones will not be silenced. Owen Schroyer will not be silenced. No amount of screaming and hollering and name-calling, juvenile, childish, baseless name-calling is going to shut us up as we point out that the people they like had their opportunity. They have run the country for the last 30 years. The neocon establishment consensus view, these great intellectuals who have run this country into the gutter, given us endless war with no inherent national interest in sight, destroyed and eroded our civil liberties, run up massive debt through their spending and borrowing scheme, signed us up to these giant international trade agreements, which have literally sucked the jobs out of America, given us economic policies that punish hard work and thrift and savings and reward those who decline to work. That's what the two-party duopoly has given us. Yeah, they're more politically correct than Donald Trump, but they have failed, and it's why the American people, in my opinion, chose something much, much different. Tyler?
Well, I would say, you know, Roger, going back to the old days when we had principled liberals who were intellectual. They argued their points intellectually. The education system has been so dumbed down these days that what we have now are these shallow leftists who are essentially just programmed. And that's why they're resorting to violence, because they lose every time. And I want to thank InfoWars for what you do. I think you and Owen, the War Room, is an excellent must-watch every day source for information, for the real news. And we will have victory, Roger. I've worked for Newt Gingrich back in the day. They threw everything they could at him. We're moving forward. Rolling back the massive Leviathan superstate is not going to be an overnight task, but we march ahead. We march forward.
Yeah, it is interesting to see how quickly the mainstream media would like to sweep Harvey Weinstein under the carpet and get moving. It's almost laughable. Extraordinary reporting by our friend James O'Keefe, who nails the New York Times in the longtime cover-up of this very story. Tyler Nixon, thanks for joining us here on the War Room. I'd like to have you back soon, if you would. We are here at Victory or Death.